Hey, I'm Lana from Lana Glowshot Art, and in this video, we're unboxing the April 2026 SketchBox. This month's box is all about sketching with gel pens. Ready to get into it? Let's go. The surface in this month's box is the Legion Craft 4x6 inch pad. This pad includes 10 sheets of 100% cotton paper in a warm toned craft color. This color allows both lighter and darker colors to pop off the page. Next up, we have the SketchBox Signature Clip-On Ruler. This will help you create your straight lines and build up clean hatching. We also have the SketchBox Signature Pencil Roll-Up Case. This custom case is designed to store all the pens in this box. Plus, there are 2 additional spots so you can add a couple of your personal favorites when you take your sketching on the go. Now let's dive into our first pen, the vintage Sarasa Gel in Camel Yellow. This pen contains smooth flowing ink that's highly light fast. It creates consistent crisp lines and feels great to work with. The color is a little closer to the tone of the craft paper than the other pens in this box, which makes it perfect for your initial sketch work and for building in subtle hatching and transitions. Let's start out with a classic warm-up. Sketching a simple sphere. This is one of the most foundational exercises in drawing because it teaches you how to describe form using light and shadow. Today we're going to explore how to do that using pens and hatching. I'm imagining a light source coming from the top right. That means we'll have a form shadow wrapping around the lower left side of the sphere and a cast shadow extending out to the left along the table. Using this ruler, I'll lightly measure a straight horizontal line to describe the surface the sphere is sitting on. But instead of drawing one solid line across the background, I'm going to use several vertical lines to suggest that flat backdrop. That is going to keep everything feeling consistent with the hatching in this sketch. Now I'll transition back to the sphere and begin building value along the shadow edge. I keep most of my lines fairly straight, but I subtly adjust the angle as the form turns. Those small shifts in direction help communicate the roundness of the sphere. To soften the shadow edge a bit, I'll create a gentle hatched gradient. I slowly make my marks a little bit smaller and space them further apart as I move towards the light. That gradual change in density creates the illusion of a lighter tone and is a great approach for a medium like this that doesn't blend. Next, we have the Uniball Signo Gel Impact Pen in white. This gel pen is extremely smooth, bold, and highly opaque. It works beautifully on this toned surface and also over areas where you've already built up several layers of material. So with this pen, you can confidently add highlights at any stage. Let's use this white pen to add highlights to the top right area of the sphere, where the light is hitting it more directly. If your white gel pen ever stops laying down ink consistently, don't worry, that's completely normal. This is just because the ink is a little bit more thick and opaque, and it will sometimes need a little encouragement to get flowing again. Just grab a scrap sheet of paper and scribble lightly until the ink starts moving smoothly. I'll build up a brighter white by overlapping my hatch marks. This technique is called crosshatching. As I do this, I'm staying very mindful of the direction of my lines so that they continue to describe the roundness of the form. And I create those gradients as I move away from the light source. Because the light is coming from above and to the right, it also makes sense that the table would catch a little bit of this light as well. I'll add a bit of that hatching here, but notice that these lines are horizontal. Keeping those marks straight and horizontal will help you let that surface feel flat and clearly different from the curved sphere and from the vertical backdrop. To deepen our values, we'll use the Faber-Castell Pitt Artist Pen Dual Marker in black. This is a high-quality double-ended pen with a 0.8mm nib on one end and a flexible brush tip on the other. It also contains waterproof, acid-free India ink, so once it's down, it's not going anywhere. The 0.8mm nib is great for building up darker hatch work, but the brush tip gives us a completely different kind of mark. Here, I'm using the brush tip to push the background back and to add some more solid value. I'm intentionally allowing a bit of the craft paper to show through so that the brush marks feel cohesive with the hatching that we've already established. I'm also deepening the value of the cast shadow to anchor the sphere more firmly to the surface. Then I switch over to the finer nib and build up some descriptive cross-hatching over the earlier camel yellow marks. This will help increase contrast and refine the form. I really love this combination of colors. The camel, white, and black over the tone paper give us a full range of value and create a very sophisticated muted palette. But if you want to add a little bit more energy to this restrained color scheme, we can bring in the Matte Hop gel pens. These come in pink, violet, navy blue, and dark green, and they feature an opaque ink that dries with a beautiful matte finish. Here I'm swatching each color directly on the craft paper, but I also created a black area using the brush tip of the Faber-Castell marker, so you can see how these colors appear over the darker surface. Try not to judge the colors until they're fully dry. Most of these shades lighten slightly and appear a little bit more bold against the black once they've had a chance to settle. Before starting our main drawing, let's warm up our hatching a little more. Using the ruler, I'll draw a rectangle and divide it into several sections. Then with the violet gel pen, I'll create a value scale using only hatching. I'm going to begin at the bottom with the darkest value. Placing my ruler along the edge of that box, I'll draw several vertical lines until I achieve a dense, solid dark. I'm going to limit myself here to just vertical lines. This is going to help me build control before moving into my more detailed sketches. As I move upward along this value scale, I gradually decrease the density of my marks so that each section becomes progressively lighter. You don't need to get this perfect on the first pass. Take a moment to step back and squint at your scale so that you can evaluate the jumps between your values. Then return if needed and adjust by adding a little more hatching here and there until your transitions feel smooth and even. Sketching with pens can feel intimidating because they don't erase. In addition to working in layers and giving yourself permission to make a couple of mistakes, I recommend setting up a test or a doodle page where you can experiment freely. The prompt for this month is Art Table, so as I play on this doodle page, I'm sketching items from my own workspace. These gel pens dry fairly quickly, but if you work fast, you can mix colors directly on the paper before the ink sets in. Here, I'm blending the white into wet gel pen to create lighter tints. It's tricky to produce a large, perfectly smooth swatch this way, but it works beautifully in small shapes and adds a little more variety and interest to your sketches. Now, let's transition to our final piece. Step 1 is setting up your subject. Since the prompt is Art Table, I recommend gathering a few supplies and arranging them in an interesting way. Many art supplies naturally lie flat, so think about how you can introduce some vertical movement into the composition. I chose to place my pens inside a mug to create more height and variation. For this sketch, you can draw directly from life or work from a photo. Whichever option you choose, prioritize using a single clear light source, like a window or a desk lamp. This allows your highlights and shadows to be easy to see and consistent. Once I had my reference ready, I used the camel yellow gel pen to lightly map in my composition. Because this color is close to the tone of the craft paper, it allows me to sketch loosely, almost the way I would with a pencil, and it allows me to adjust proportions and placement as I go. The faster I move my pen, the lighter the lines appear. So I use quick searching marks to establish the ellipses on the mug and to block in the basic shapes. As I grow more confident in the structure, I slow down, apply slightly more pressure, and become more specific with my marks. This part of the process is where you start to see why it's fine to make mistakes and to have a loose drawing style. As I add in hatching, I layer darker, more confident marks right over those early searching lines. Here, I'm starting my hatching with the camel yellow throughout the sketch to establish volume and define form, just like I did with the sphere. I use rounded marks on the mug to emphasize its curved surface, then contrast that with straight diagonal lines on the sketchbook and vertical lines in the background. At this point, the mug is already starting to feel really three-dimensional, but we can push it further by stretching our values. I switch to the dark green gel pen and build up the darkest areas along the shadow side of the mug. There's no need to completely cover the craft paper in those darker passages. Instead, focus on contrast. keeping the darkest areas dense and then transitioning into lighter areas by spacing out your marks. I add a bit of white and color to the tips of the pencils inside the mug. When I'm mixing lighter tints this way, I make sure that the caps are off all of the pens that I'm using and that I'm working quickly so that the ink can blend before it dries. While those pencil tips are drying, I return to the mug and begin sketching in the lighter areas. The craft paper already provides a beautiful middle value, so I let plenty of that tone surface show through and focus primarily on defining the brightest highlights. I felt that violet would be a beautiful contrast against the green mug, so I began adding a few details to the pen and paintbrush inside the cup using that color. Instead of filling those shapes in solidly, I let some of the craft paper show through and focused on just a few intentional marks. That restraint keeps the drawing feeling sophisticated and prevents it from becoming overworked. For this piece, I wanted a really dark background, similar to what I did with the sphere. But because the silhouette of this subject is much more complex, I'll start with the fine tip of the Faber-Castell dual marker to carefully outline the mug and the art supplies. Once the edges are defined, I switch to the brush tip to fill in the background. Again, I'm allowing some of the toned paper to peek through so the texture feels cohesive with the rest of the hatching and maintains that sketchier, expressive quality. At this point, I really like how the mug and the background are working together, but the foreground needs more contrast to bring those objects forward. I decided to take a little risk and use the pink gel pen for the sketchbook, even though my photo reference shows it as brown. Then I moved to the paint tube and began hatching with the white gel pen to give it more dimension. This first pass of color starts to pull the sketchbook and paint tube forward, but for the mug to truly feel like it's sitting on the sketchbook, we need a cast shadow. I begin with the violet and really love how that works for the shadows, so I use that color in the shadows beneath the paint tube as well. I even mix a bit of violet into the white while it's still wet to create soft lavender accents in the paint tube. This helps pull the whole palette together. For the pages in the sketchbook, I want to use white, but if I go in with pure white, it's going to compete too much with the brightest highlights. So while the ink is still wet, I mix in a bit of violet to soften it. There's quite a bit of material layered up in this area now, so it needs time to dry completely before I can draw that spiral binding over the top. While that's drying, I move back into the tools in the mug and refine some of the highlights and smaller details. It's a good habit to move around your drawing like this, building up the piece in layers rather than letting one area become overly detailed before the rest catches up. Once the pages are fully dry, I return to add the spiral binding. Don't worry about making every curve perfect. That's not the goal here. Instead, observe the rhythm and angle of the curves and sketch them in as confidently as you can. As I work on the binding, I also study the shadows in this area and use both violet and black to increase contrast and add a subtle cast shadow beneath the book. At this stage, the sketch feels nearly complete, so I take a step back and evaluate the composition as a whole. After looking at it for a moment, I realize that the table isn't quite working. I refer back to my photo and study the pattern of light. To ground this piece more effectively, I add some white in the foreground and then gradually allow the white to fade away as it moves towards the background. That final adjustment helps anchor the objects and gives the entire composition a stronger sense of stability. And now this piece is complete. I hope you learned a ton about working with gel pens, and we can't wait to see what you create. So be sure to use the hashtag SketchBoxApril when you post your work online. For more unboxing videos and tutorials, you can check out our YouTube page where you can like and subscribe. Thanks so much for watching. See you next time.